The government said a vaccine was going to be available soon, but most people seemed to think that was crap. A lot of the radio stations from California were broadcasting really terrible things about martial law, army blockades, homeboys with automatic weapons on the rampage, and rumors of people dying by the tens of thousands.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, my name's Tony Tornay. I play drums in a band called All Souls and a band called Fatso Jetson from Los Angeles, California.
How would you describe the music of All Souls?
We're a rock and roll band. We all have a bunch of varied and different influences, but we're a rock and roll band we're a rock and roll band.
A rock and roll band, but one with roots in the noise rock scene. As you mentioned, you're in Fatso Jetson, which is, I think, associated a lot with the stoner rock and desert rock scenes.
Yeah.
And so it's rock and roll, but it also has a lot of post-punk, stoner rock, noise rock kind of elements to it, right?
Yeah. I mean, the description thing's always a little weird these days because, I mean, there's so many subgenres at this point. But, so I just say rock and roll because that just seems simple. But yeah, I mean, we all grew up on early 80s, late 70s, early 80s punk rock, but we also grew up on 70s rock and, like you said, noise rock but, I mean, we also love, bands like the Cars and Devo and, we're kind of all over the place. And we try to distill all of that down into one thing.
So tell people who else is in the band besides you.
The band consists of Antonio Aguilar on guitar and vocals. His wife, Meg Castellanos, plays bass and does some vocals. And Eric Trammell plays guitar.
So people might know Meg and Antonio from the band Totemoshi, which was a kind of noise rock, almost Amphetamine Reptile style band from Oakland, right?
Yes. Yeah, and Eric played in a band called Black Elk from Portland that was pretty active back in the early 2000s. And before that, played in a band called Brothers Collateral in Wadsworth.
So what brought all you guys together and why did you decide to form All Souls?
Well, for Fatso Jetson, my other band, we are sometimes insanely active for very long stretches of time, but then sometimes we take like a year off, not by design, but just real life gets in the way of things. And sometimes, when you're not playing as much as you like to, you start looking around to start something new. And Antonio and I, for years, have been threatening to start a band together. And, we got far enough along that we started kind of writing some songs together and kind of talking about the kind of things that we would like to do. And then back in, I think it was 2017, they both Antonio and Meg approached me with Eric, and they were like, "Hey, is this something you might want to do?" And at the time, Fatso Jetson wasn't really doing anything, so I jumped at the opportunity, and we pretty quickly were able to write an album's worth of material and get it out and just start hitting the road a lot.
Did you have a pretty good idea of what kind of music you guys wanted to make?
Yeah, we did. The first time that the idea really came together that this was something that we were going to do, we actually sat down as a band and kind of mapped out what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do it, what we wanted it to sound like. All of us have played in bands and toured for 20, 30 years now. And, sometimes you jump into a project and it doesn't work out the way you wanted it to. And, I think a big part of that is about communication. And, the one thing that I've learned in all of the bands that I've played in over the years is that musicians, we aren't necessarily the best communicators when it comes to the ideas that we have and how we'd like to do it. And so that was one of the things that I was kind of adamant about, is that I really wanted to sit down and and make sure everybody, that we all understood and respected each other, and that we were all on the same page, with our intentions. So yeah, so we actually really did take I've been in a lot of bands where you just sort of show up and what happens, whereas we were very clear with what we wanted to do with this band from the get-go.
What was that exactly? Because you did mention that All Souls has a little bit of a 70s hard rock vibe to it. Was that the major intention?
I mean, it wasn't the intention. It wasn't an intention as much as it was an acknowledgement, that we all, I mean, as much as I love Black Flag, I also love Joe Walsh, and all of those things can exist together, and they should exist together. So we figured, why not make that happen for ourselves?
So am I understanding you when you say that you guys had mapped out what you wanted to do? Was the intention to mix much more, I mean, I don't want to use the word mainstream, but much more popular influences with kind of your underground and punk rock background?
Well, it wasn't that so much as, there, when we sat down and started talking about the ideas of what we wanted to do, it wasn't so much of we literally musically are going to sound like this. It was kind of more the overall idea of what the band should be like and how we might want to operate. And the music thing, I've known Tony and Meg since, God, my other band, Fatso Jetson, did a tour with this band called Caius back in 1995, and they came to the show in San Francisco. And, so it's like we've all, and Eric's band, Fatso Jetson, had also played a bunch of shows with them. So musically, I knew that we were all very compatible. And that it's just more about common exploration of just like, when you get into something like this, it's good to know where the people are coming from, because you understand that you're all on the same page. But it wasn't a conscious thing of like, hey, let's try to be mainstream, but mix in this other stuff. It was more, I like what you guys do already, and I think that we would all operate together well, if that makes sense.
Sure. If you would, like, what would you say the major differences between All Souls and your other bands?
I think that All Souls is a bit more focused. Like when we sit down to write, we really like think that there isn't a lot of whimsical stuff per se. It's like we sit down and we really hash things out, and sometimes writing a song will take a little bit longer than it does in other bands, but it's more because we do something and then we sit with it for a few days, pick it apart, and then try to put it back together again. And whereas a lot of other bands that I've played in over the years, it's a lot more loose, for lack of a better word, where things sometimes, ideas just sort of come up and you go with it. And, I feel like All Souls is a lot more focused in terms of our writing.
So you mentioned that All Souls formed around 2017, and the first album came out not long after that. It sounds like you guys are putting together songs pretty quickly. Tell me a little bit about your songwriting process.
Well, somebody comes in with an idea, and then we all jump on it and we start just tinkering and messing around. And sometimes it might be a guitar riff, sometimes it might be a bass line or a drum beat, sometimes it's just a vocal idea. And we all, one of the things that we wanted from the very beginning of this band was for everybody to be an active participant. And it's not like, oh, this guy is the songwriter or this guy is the whatever. It's really a collaborative effort. So even if somebody comes in with a pretty rough idea of a song, it's not unusual for the whole thing to be picked apart and rearranged, and it's a group effort. It really is a group effort. We rehearse 3 times a week, if not more, and we just it's something we love and we take great pride in. So we do the best that we can to honor that time.
Compared to some of your other bands, collectively your other bands, All Souls seems very vocals driven. There are a lot of vocal hooks and memorable choruses and things like that. Would you say that the vocals and the lyrics are emphasized more with All Souls than some of the other projects you guys have been involved with?
To a degree, yes. It could go either way. There are other bands that I've played in. I played in a band with a woman named Linda Perry, who's a record producer and whatever. And, that was all about vocals and
Right,
things like that. But I've also played in just instrumental bands where there are no vocals at all, and so, we do take great pride in what we've come up with, but it for me, it's kind of hard to answer that only because I've been on both ends of the spectrum. So,
right. I think specifically, I really feel like Fatso Jetson is kind of a guitar rock band. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And, Black Elk and Totemoshi, as discordant as they feel very riff based.
Yeah.
And I feel like All Souls is kind of, almost as what you're talking about, the 70s rock influences. It feels more like quote unquote song band. The vocals are the hook that drives the songs forward.
Yeah, well,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's totally true. Fatso Jetson, we can tend to sometimes be a little bit long-winded, especially when we play live. A lot of that music was written with the idea that at any given moment we could kind of stretch out on parts and Mario is maybe one of my favorite vocalists of all time, but there's a lot of that music that Fatso Jetson does that doesn't have any vocals at all, and with All Souls, I think we did, really want to have the vocals be kind of really something that was in the mix, and to the point that we've, like the other day at rehearsal, we were working on an idea and we were trying to think of the vocals and Antonio was like, maybe this is an instrumental, and because that's something this band hasn't done yet. So, again, we just try to do our best to serve the music. And, it is definitely pretty forward though with the vocals and those ideas. That's something that we take into consideration all the time when writing.
You're always reminding, you compromised, ways and means through
On October 2nd, you guys will be releasing your second album, which is called, appropriate for our times,
Yeah.
Songs for the End of the World. Tell me about this album.
Well, I mean, after the first record, we got really busy. We did tours with the Melvins, Jesus Lizard, Meat Puppets, Red Fang, Tool, and we were really busy for a long time, and we tried to write as much as we could between tours, and we cobbled together a group of songs that we're very proud of, and we think that we have pushed the ball forward, so to speak. It's I think it's a natural progression for us. The some of the songs are a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more progressive, but there's still a lot of blasts of punk rock fury in there, and we're very proud of it.
When you say that the songs are a little bit more progressive, would you say that that's the major difference between this new album and your first album?
Well, I mean, I think that we had the one thing that we always kind of laugh about at rehearsal is when we'll make quick recordings of ideas, or if we have a rough outline of a song, and we always kind of look at the time, and we always sort of laugh that most of our songs tend to be in about the 5-minute range, which is well outside of what is now considered, a pop song. But at the same time, Thin Lizzy songs, one day I was walking around my neighborhood listening to Thin Lizzy, and I realized that every song on the record was over 5 minutes long. And, that gives a band time to stretch out and sort of take an idea and let it expand. And we're fans of doing that. When I say progressive, I mean that we aren't scared of stretching out on ideas and seeing where they can go, and doing that on the record, where you allow the song to naturally progress instead of trying to fit it within some shitty pop radio format, and so that's something that we purposely just like ignore, and just let the music go where it goes, and see what happens with it.
How long exactly were you working on this album?
The way we tend to work actually is we tend to write batches of songs and then go into the studio and record them. So this record was done in, if I remember right, about 2 weeks time total. But we did it in blocks where we went in, did 3 or 4 songs, then worked out the next batch, did those. Keep in mind that we're doing tours in the middle of all this. So I think we started writing a lot of this material before the last record even came out. It was just a matter of trying to find the time to get into the studio between touring and everybody's, day-to-day lives and everything. I mean, we finished the record quite a while ago, but unfortunately with, coronavirus and everything, I mean, the record was done. God, at this point, I would guesstimate that the record was done about a year ago. But then, there was the struggle of figuring out what to do when coronavirus popped up. We had originally wanted to have the record come out right around the new year, but then things started getting weird. And then, not to get too behind the curtain about it, but then, getting pressing plants, like shipping things around the world has been a hassle. I mean, the record comes out in 2 weeks and we still don't have our vinyl yet because of the shipping lags. They had to put all the pallets on a boat and mail them, or, ship them from the Czech Republic here to California. And we still don't know when it's going to get here. And I'm sorry, I know this is completely boring stuff, but it kind of factors into We were ready to do this 6 months ago, but unfortunately, the world stepped in.
You were ready to release songs for the end of the world, and then the world actually started to end.
Literally. I mean, it was fun, honestly, like obviously I think obviously the name of the title is a little bit of a hat tip towards our current president, and little did we know that it was as prescient as it actually is.
So you recorded this album with Toshi Kasai, who also recorded your first album.
Yes.
I think people listening to this podcast probably know him from his work with the Melvins. He's worked with a lot of bands in the LA area and is a musician in his own right. Tell me about working with Toshi and why you decided to go with him.
I actually didn't know Toshi before this band. I knew his name, but we hadn't met personally. Meg and Tony knew him, as did Eric. Both Meg and Tony and Eric's previous bands had all recorded with him. And, I mean, when they came to me and mentioned recording with him and I looked down his resume, it was a no-brainer. Toshi he's a great guy, and he's really easy to work with. And his studio, the way things work with Toshi are really, it's really great because we'll go in, we'll spend, a couple days doing stuff, but then also, he contributes a lot more than you would think. We'll mention, oh, we were thinking a keyboard part here, or, this other thing, whatever. And then, he'll send us like rough mixes a day or two later. And Toshi is a pretty amazing multi-instrumentalist himself. And he'll have put on like a keyboard part that he heard, or, he's a very attentive producer. And, it's so far, things have worked really well with him.
As a producer and a musician, the Melvins and Big Business both kind of straddle this line between coming from an indie or punk rock background, but also having these big dramatic rock moments, these kind of hard rock, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin kind of songs. Was that part of the factor in choosing Toshi?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with a guy like Toshi and us is we feel like that he gets us, and he understands what we're doing and how we're doing it. And, he's a very musical dude and can just sort of slide in and out. After every take, it'll be like, hey, was that good enough? And, he doesn't shy away from telling no, that wasn't good enough at all. I think you should do that again. And, that's a great thing because it pushes you to want to do better. And for me, that's something that I appreciate. I like working against something, I like being challenged to try to be better. I think that makes you a better musician. And, so sometimes I won't agree with it, but I still do it because I want to prove, if to nobody else but myself, that I can. But, it's not so much about like having worked with the Melvins or Big Business or, Tool or the Foo Fighters or whatever. It's way more that when we work together, he gets us and we get him.
So are you guys self-releasing this album?
We are.
Why did you decide to go that route?
It just seemed easier, you know? I mean, at this point, to dealing with record labels at this point is really starting to get kind of tiring. There aren't too many labels that I can think of right now that are really blowing me away. And ultimately, you know, they want to take X amount of dollars for everything that you've done. And as much as I would love to champion independent labels as being amazing and whatever, a lot of times what happens is they press up your product and that's about it. And if somebody isn't really going to make an extra effort, because I mean, we've spent a huge amount of our time out there on the road touring, and that, like, if we're going to put in the work, we want somebody else to put in the work too. And it just sort of seemed like, well, especially with, you know, everything going on in the world right now, it would just be easier for us to just put it out ourselves and, you know, be responsible for it. But, you know, at the same time, we get all of the fruits of that labor instead of being frustrated with somebody and not getting all of the fruits.
So at the time that we speak, it's a few weeks away from the album being released. What are your plans for after that?
Who knows? I mean, I don't know how to answer.
Just in case the world does not end.
I mean, honestly, I don't even know how to answer that question. Back in March or April, when everything shut down, literally my entire year had been planned out and it got canceled. So I don't really know. I mean, I would love to say that we're going to be able to go out and play some shows or this or that or whatever, but I just don't even know how to answer that question at this point. I mean, we have a video done for the last single for the record. It's a song called Winds. We'll be releasing that, but I mean, as far as tours go, I don't have a clue. We have, ever since the shutdown started, we've been writing like motherfuckers, and we have almost an entirely new record already done, and we will hopefully be recording that in the coming months. But I mean, as far as anything publicly, I mean, I don't even know how to answer that anymore.
You guys seem like road dogs. Like, you seem like you guys tour pretty frequently. How important is the live experience to experiencing All Souls?
I think it's 100% important. I'm 47 years old. I grew up with live music. To me, that is, I mean, I can't understate the importance to me of playing live, you know? I mean, that's, or of going and seeing a band play live. To me, I still operate under the idea of sort of the old model of you build something and then you take it out to the world to show them what you've done. And I mean, I almost don't understand a lot of the newer bands that don't tour that much, you know? I mean, because it's like, what are you doing? You know, like, how do you not do that? You know, I mean, to me, that's the point of all of this, is that I love to play music and I want to play music every single day. If I could, I would be on tour, you know, most of the year, and then recording when I'm not, because that to me is what a musician does.
Yeah. So Songs for the End of the World will be coming out on October 2nd. Tell people what the best way to get the album is.
If you'd like to buy it direct from us, you can go to our Bandcamp page, which is allsoulsband.bandcamp.com. We are offering 2 different versions of vinyl, a colored vinyl and a regular black vinyl. We have a couple bundles for sale where you can buy all the different versions. We have CDs, t-shirts, et cetera, et cetera. That's all up there. Also, when the time comes, it will be on all of the major streaming platforms, Spotify, et cetera, iTunes, whatever. But with Bandcamp, that really, that's all us. So Bandcamp would be great.
And if people want to follow All Souls online, how can they do that?
We are All Souls Band on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, pretty much any social media platform. We are All Souls Band.
And what's going on with Fatso Jetson?
To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. Not in a bad way. Just that, with Mario moved back to the desert where we all grew up, out in Palm Desert. And Larry, the bass player, he lived up here, but kind of a little bit to the side over near Pasadena, as does Dino. And with not much going on in terms of the outside world, we just haven't been that active recently. We have been hoping to get together and, do something in the very near future. But, we're just waiting for the space for things to happen. With us being spread out around Southern California, it's not the easiest thing for us to get together and play, especially with most rehearsal studios and stuff being closed right now.
Is there anything else you want to say?
I can't think of anything. I'm pretty good. Just buy our music.
Excellent. Thanks, Tony.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking the time.